Could this be the best Indiana basketball roster ever?
You are Locked On Hoosiers, your daily podcast on the Indiana Hoosiers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in. It is the Locked On Hoosiers podcast. I'm your man, Jacob Goins. I appreciate you being here, making this your first listen each and every day. We are a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which is your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. 5 Hour Energy fixes tired fast with zero sugar and a convenient portable size. It's the perfect pick-me-up for getting stuff done. Go to 5hourenergy.com and use the promo code LOCKEDONCFB to receive 20% off your order. That's 5hourenergy.com today. Well, thank you so much for being here, making this truly your first listen, your first watch each and every day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. A reminder that this show is free to you every single day, Monday through Friday. So thank you so much for making this your first listen and your go-to spot for all things Indiana athletics. Could this be the most talented, the best roster that Indiana basketball has ever had? We'll talk about what Mike Woodson had to say about this year's coming up team in 2024. He sat down with John Rothstein on a podcast this week and had some really interesting things to say about his squad. Plus, this weekend, there's a lot happening here in Bloomington as Jalen Haralson visits campus and visits Indiana basketball, big-time player reunion, first football game, tons going on here in Bloomington. And speaking of college football, we'll make our week one picks about Indiana as they open up the season, plus other games around the Big Ten as well. We'll have that for you later on in the show. Could this be the best roster that Indiana basketball has ever had? Well, Mike Woodson says it's the best one that he has ever had. And he said that earlier this week in a podcast with John Rothstein, who is a very well-known reporter and an expert in college basketball. And Mike Woodson started talking about this team and this current situation. And he says, quote, "There's no doubt it's the best talent and best roster we've had." He goes on to say, that's not taking anything away from the last three previous seasons, but we're deeper than we have been in the past, and that's important. He says, I think when you go through a grueling season, especially in the Big Ten, I feel good now if somebody happens to trip a little bit and can't play. There's someone behind there, or there's someone back to back him up and give him some support until he's able to get back. And so, look, we can have this argument and we can have the discussion, and you may feel this way and you may feel differently, but there's no doubt about it. I think this is the most talented roster Mike Woodson has ever had. And yes, I think there could be an argument to be made, and a lot of it does depend on how this season goes. But yeah, folks, this is a really talented team, and they're really, really deep. Could it be one of the most talented teams we've ever seen? I know you look back in history, and there's a lot of good teams, man. I know. Don't yell at me now. I know there's a lot of good teams. But you look up and down this roster, and in the starting five and even in the first couple off the bench, where are the flaws? At least on paper right now, there aren't a lot of flaws. You have really good guard play starting. You have really good forward play starting. You have a really good center starting. And even guys that are coming off the bench, whether it's your older guys like a Trey Galloway or an experienced guy like Gabe Cupps, who's young, but Mike Woodson had great things to say about him. Or it could be a young guy and a Bryson Tucker, or even some of your other transfers who are older like a Luke Goody or a Langdon Hatton. You have a lot to be excited about on this team. Mike Woodson goes on in this podcast to talk about the depth of this team, the experience of this team, and I would think that leads to a very high level of trust with this team for Mike Woodson and Indiana basketball. And so, yeah, why not throw that conversation out there? At least on paper, preseason, it could be one of the most talented teams we've seen. But as you all know, and I know, and that we all know watching college basketball, that doesn't mean they're going to be great. That doesn't mean they're going to win a national title. That doesn't even mean they're going to be a good team. How many times have you seen so many talented teams, not just in Indiana, but just across college basketball that were uber talented, but couldn't do anything about it. John Calipari in Kentucky. That's how it happens all the time. That's what separates good coaches from great coaches. That's what celebrates recruiters from winners. And we're still learning what Mike Woodson's going to be here in Indiana, if he can be a recruiter and a winner. But talent-wise, this team has got it. And from the guard play of Miles Rice, Cannon Carlisle, you have Umar Ballo down low, which Mike Woodson talks about here, and how he plans on using him a ton, getting the big fella touches, and using him in a 1-2 punch of him and Malik Renew. When one man gets doubled, throw it to the other guy. Something we've talked about right here on Locked On Hoosiers. My everydayers know that. And that's such a luxury. And then the term that everybody keeps using for what Mackenzie Mbako could be for this team this year is the X factor. And I think that's spot on. I think that's exactly right, is the X factor for Indiana. Think about if we didn't have Mackenzie Mbako. You still have really good guards. You'd still have a really good power forward. You'd still have a really good center. You would probably put Luke Goody in the 3 spot, I would think, just because of his shooting ability and his experience. That's a heck of a starting 5 with Trey Galloway off the bench, Langdon Hatton off the bench, Bryson Tucker off the bench, Gabe Cupps, if he gets there. I'm not sold on it yet, but you never know. Ja'Kai Newton, if the injury things work out. That's still a really good team. And then now you bring back in Mackenzie Mbako, who everybody's looking for the sophomore surge, not a sophomore slump, a sophomore surge for Mackenzie Mbako, makes this team uber talented. And I think you can hear it from Mike Woodson. He's excited about this team. Yeah, there's still question marks and exhibition games like Tennessee that you're going to play in late October. I think it's a really good test. I think South Carolina can be a good test. Preseason or non-conference tournaments are good tests. And then, yeah, you're going to find out exactly what we are when we get to the Big Ten schedule and get to Big Ten play. But talent-wise and numbers-wise and just flat out write it down and compare to everybody else, I'll say it. I'll say it right here. This is one of the most talented teams in college basketball. Indiana basketball, the Hoosiers in 2024, have one of the most talented rosters in the country. But that can only take you so far. A talented roster will only get you so many wins. Talent alone will only get you so many wins. You have to have good coaching. You got to have cohesion. You've got to have great teamwork. And yeah, let's be real. You got to have a little bit of luck on your side as well. But if all of those things come together, this roster for Indiana could be special and lead to an amazing season in 2024 and 2025. Well, coming up on Locked On Hoosiers, speaking of basketball, it's a big weekend here in Bloomington as Jalen Haralson's official visit starts today. We'll tell you about him, remind you a little bit of what he could bring and why this weekend could be so big. We'll have that for you coming up next on Locked On Hoosiers. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by Factor Meals. Fuel up with Factor's no prep, no mess meals. Meet your wellness goals thanks to the menu of chef-crafted meals with options like Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, and Keto. Factor's fresh, never frozen meals are dietitian approved and ready to eat in just 2 minutes. So no matter how busy you are, you'll always have time to enjoy nutritious, great tasting meals. Mine are in the mail, on the way. We'll be here next week, man. I'm so excited. I'll tell you the things that I have. I've got some chicken coming, some pasta coming. I know I got salmon on the way. There is filet mignon. I wasn't able to get on that train yet, but I will hopefully my next time around. But there's so many different meat options. They've got veggie options. I have some protein shakes on the way too. I don't know. I just decided to try it all. And you can do that as well with Factor Meals. Keep your kitchen time to a minimum. Factor Meals are ready in 2 minutes. No shopping, prepping, cooking, or my favorite part, no cleaning up. Head to factormeals.com/LockedOnCollege50 and use code LockedOnCollege50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month. That's Code LockedOnCollege50 at factormeals.com/LockedOnCollege50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month while your subscription is active at factormeals.com. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is also brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. From superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors, they got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay's Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay's Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Welcome back to Locked On Hoosiers. Thank you again for being here. Shout out to all of my everydayers, those of you that are here each and every day. If it ends in Y, you're watching Locked On Hoosiers. We appreciate you doing that. We're here Monday through Friday. Occasional weekend episodes, occasional. You can find those on your audio platforms, or if you're on the video side of things on YouTube. So thank you so much for doing that. Easiest way to support this show that's free to you is to subscribe to our YouTube channel, which shout out to you guys. We are now over 2,800 subscribers. So give yourselves a hand. That is fantastic work. Looking forward to 29 and then 3,000. So I think we can get there. I know we can get there. It's just a matter of how long can it take. So thank you so much for doing that. Subscribe to our channel on YouTube, like the video, comment down below your thoughts on what Indiana's roster could be this year. Where would you rank it on paper with some of the rosters of the past? I want to see what you guys have to say as well. Well, it's not about a guy, this conversation anyway, it's not about a guy on the team right now, but he is on campus, and we're hoping that he'll be on the team soon. Jalen Haralson starts his official visit this weekend, a guy that is just unbelievably talented. We've had a lot of different conversations about this young man on Locked On Hoosiers. We've had episodes about him. We've had segments about him, and now it's finally here. The Hoosiers got him on campus. He will be here starting today through this weekend of this last weekend of August, going into the Labor Day holiday. And there's so many different factors here that you have to consider. Yes, he is a 5-star prospect. Yes, he's one of the best in the entire class. He's a top 15 player in 2025. And I've had a lot of you ask me, or I've seen a lot of you ask about this and say, well, could he be the first one to go? Could he be the first one to fall? Yeah, he absolutely could, right? He absolutely could be the first commit for Indiana in this 2025 class of all these guys taking their official visits. Do I think that happens immediately? Probably not, just because that's a lot to ask for. And you got to remember, this guy's got a bunch of official visits set up, right? Look at what he's got. Indiana, Notre Dame, Michigan State, Missouri, Purdue, and Kansas. Almost all of those from August 31 to September 28. So a straight month, 5 straight weeks, he's taking an official visit, and his last one will be Kansas on October 19th. And Notre Dame, Michigan State, Missouri, Purdue, and Kansas. Big-time programs in there, man, who have been on him for quite some time. For Jalen Haralson, I think Indiana is still probably at the top. I would put Notre Dame in there too, but never count out Kansas. I mean, never, ever count out the Jayhawks when they're recruiting somebody. And in today's world where it's not all about just the program, right? There's a lot more that goes into recruiting a high-level college athletics player or a high-level high school player to make them a college athlete. That's the better way to say that. There's a lot more factors here. And so keep that in mind as well. But what do I always tell you? When it comes to official visits, what do I like? What do I prefer? What do I tell you is always best? You either want the first visit or you want the last. And Indiana's got the first. We have him this weekend before he goes to Notre Dame and Michigan State and Missouri and Purdue and then Kansas. We have the very first one, which tells me we get to set the standard. We set the standard here at Indiana about what he can expect, what he's going to see, the things he'll hear, the things he'll do. We get to set the standard for the rest of his official visits, because whether he does it intentionally or not, and I'm not just talking Jalen Haralson in particular, I'm talking every single recruit in any sport. When you get the first visit, all of the other visits after that will be compared to the first one. They always will be, until there's one that's better, right? Until there's a better visit, the first one will be the kind of the top mark. That's the one that they'll compare everything else to. And if a better one comes along, then that'll take the top spot. But then if they get to the end of it, he'll sit around and he'll think, I had a lot of good visits. I had fun in Missouri. That was cool. Yeah, Michigan State, that's a nice place. Purdue, yeah, it was terrible. It was I don't know, it was gross colors. We didn't like it. But man, that Indiana visit, I just don't think any place compared. And that's what you want. That's how you win in recruiting. You blow the doors off of it. You blow him away so well that nothing else compares. And by the end of it, he takes the Indiana visit. He compares it to everything else. And he says, you know what? That's the place I want to be. And that's what Indiana has the chance to do. And they're pulling out all the stops here this weekend. You've got week 1 of college football, Indiana at home mid-afternoon. Yes, it'll be, it's still August, so it'll be warm, but it's not going to be insane. You have the players reunion for Indiana basketball that is this weekend, which is not by coincidence. I've continued to tell you that. Former players and alumni are going to be on campus at an entire event for Indiana basketball. And I have a good feeling that Jalen Haralson's going to be making a stop through there. And pretty much Mike Woodson, I hope he told them, hey, go get this kid. Tell him everything you need to tell him. Say whatever it is you need to say. Don't lie, but just tell them why Indiana's the place you need to be. And that's going to be convincing in itself. Whether it works or not, I guess we'll find out. But man, imagine being a high-level prospect and they're putting out all of this for you this weekend. Football, tailgate, Indiana player reunion. Like, this is a big, big weekend for Jalen Haralson just to take it all in. And hopefully he sees the effort that Indiana's putting into this thing and they understand, wow, or he understands, wow, they really do want me here. Look at all that they did for me in particular this weekend. How's it going to go? I have no idea. I think it'll go well, and I hope that it does go well. We'll have a reaction for you coming up early next week here on Locked on Hoosiers. But if you're Mike Woodson, you're already in a good spot, as is Indiana for Jalen Haralson. Now it's time that you go get him. He's top 15 in the country. He's one of the best players in the class, and he would make you a competitor immediately next year. And you never know, he could be the first domino to fall. Coming up in our final segment on Locked on Hoosiers, we'll go to the football side as Indiana and Curt Cignetti take the field for the very first time. We'll have picks and predictions for that, plus predictions for other games around the Big Ten as Week 1 gets underway. We'll have that for you in our final segment on Locked on Hoosiers. Today's episode of Locked on Hoosiers is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. All right. If you have a to-do list, and if you're like me, you do, and it seems like it's never ending, the best way to get through it is 5 Hour Energy, because it fixes tired fast. Whether you have a long list to do for work or a list of DIY projects to tackle at home, take a 5 Hour Energy shot so you can check everything off your list. If you're like me, you always have a large list of projects, whether it's at home or at work. Typically at work for me, but hey, sometimes it's at home too. When you get your supplies for the project, do not forget the most essential supply that there is, a 5 Hour Energy shot. With zero sugar and a convenient portable size, it's the perfect pick-me-up for getting stuff done. On the site, you even have the option to build your own 12-pack or 24-pack on the 5 Hour Energy website. You choose the flavors, and it's delivered right to your door. If you go to 5hourenergy.com, that's the number 5, 5hourenergy.com and get some 5-Hour Energy product today. You can use my promo code LOCKEDONCFB to receive 20% off your order. Perfect timing for week 1 of college football. This offer is only valid until September 30th on one order and cannot be used with other promotions. The code is not good on subscription orders either. Go to 5hourenergy.com today. Final segment on Locked On Hoosiers. Thank you again for being here. Shout out to all of you for making this show possible, for making it successful, and honestly, just making it so much fun, man. This is such an honor and such a blast that I've had the chance to be doing this show, and I'm not going anywhere, so don't worry about that. If you're a fan, hopefully you're happy, and if you're not, well, sorry, some of you keep coming back anyway. And if you do, we're having fun, so thank you for that, and this is hopefully your first listen, your first watch every single day. If you're looking for your second listen, your second watch every day, go check out Locked On College Football. Now is the perfect time to go check out that show. It's one of our national shows, a part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Spencer does a wonderful job over there telling you all the latest storylines, all the biggest news, and all the hottest takes. And tell him that Jacob from Locked On Hoosiers sent you over there. Type that in his comments, okay? Tell him, like, go Huskies or something. He's a big Oregon guy. So just talk trash to him and tell him that we sent you to do it, and he'll appreciate it. But he does a really good job, so be sure you check that out. Locked On College Football. It's free. It's in your, it can be in your audio platforms, or you can find it, the video version on YouTube. Just type in Locked On College Football, and it'll be right there. He posts a show every single day for free as well. Well, with college football, week 1, it's not just here. It's already happening. We had games week 0 a week ago. You had games on Thursday night, games coming up tonight, and a ton of games coming up tomorrow. Let's make some picks around the Big Ten and for college football. We'll keep it in the Big Ten for now. I know some teams got underway with Rutgers and Minnesota and Illinois. You've got games coming up tonight, Michigan State and Wisconsin, but we'll go ahead and just give those two teams wins. Maybe Michigan State. I don't know. I don't know about that. I'll give them the win. I'm not going to feel good about it, but I'll do it. Michigan State and Wisconsin. Coming up on Saturday, though. All right, Iowa taking on Illinois State. Nothing crazy. I'll give them the win. Maryland taking on UConn, which, by the way, did you see the UConn news that they're meeting with the Big 12? Interesting. I'll give Maryland the win. Purdue, yes, they'll win. Ohio State, yes, they'll win. Nebraska, yes, they'll win. Have you seen the line for Northwestern? They're hosting Miami of Ohio, and they're only favored by 3. Does that say more about how bad Northwestern is, or just how good Miami of Ohio could be? I don't know. I'll give Northwestern the win, but I do not feel good about it. Oregon, they'll win against Idaho. Michigan, they'll win. UCLA will win at Hawaii. Washington will win against Weber State. I mean, there's just not very many good games around the Big Ten. And just to go ahead and give this one to you too, Indiana's winning on Saturday. Indiana's winning this weekend. We're not stressed. We're not worried that we better show up and play, but we ain't losing, okay? Indiana will win. They're going to look good doing it, and the Curt Cignetti era in Bloomington's going to get off to a really good start. The 2 games in the Big Ten that actually matter this weekend are Penn State on the road at West Virginia. That's a top 10 Penn State team taking on West Virginia in Morgantown. You're going to have that game is on Fox. It's the big noon kickoff. Pat McAfee, I think, is going to be there. He's a big West Virginia guy. Going to be a wild scene there in Morgantown. Penn State favored by around a touchdown or so. I'm going to take the Nittany Lions, but I don't feel good about it. I don't feel good about it at all. I think Penn State's a better team. I think they have a better roster. I think they have a better coach, but who knows? West Virginia people are crazy, and that is going to be an awesome atmosphere. I'll take Penn State to win that game. And then if you watched our weekly preview that dropped last night here on Locked On Hoosiers, it's our Big Ten weekly preview. All of the Big Ten hosts from Locked On get together. We start making picks and predictions. If you missed it, go back and watch it, okay? You can just find it on our channel at Locked On Hoosiers. It's our Big Ten Week 1 preview. I picked LSU versus USC, and I picked LSU. I did. I picked LSU in a lower scoring game than people think. I think I said 31-20, something like that. People are being fooled by the offenses here and the lack of defense. I got a sneaky suspicion it's not as bad as we think it is. But I am going to take LSU. I think Garrett Nussmeier is a really good quarterback. I think he's a lot better than USC. And I just think that's been a failed experiment with Lincoln Riley in Southern California. So the Big Ten will have a lot of wins in week 1, but I think in the 2 big matchups that they have, I'm going to have it split. I'll take Penn State to beat West Virginia, and I will take LSU to take down USC. But to circle back really quickly as we wrap it up, Indiana, simply, I'm looking for good offense, good quarterback play from Curtis Rourke. I'm looking for somebody to step up on the outside as a wide receiver, maybe even a couple of guys to step up out there. Interested to see how the offensive line looks now that we've had to shuffle some things around with injuries. And then defensively, just eat. Go after it. I don't care that it's FIU. I don't care that it's week 1. Unleash the linebackers. Throw at the safeties, please. Throw at the DBs in the backfield and let them have a day back there for the Indiana defense. And then put a little pressure on the quarterback. If you do these things, I'm good. Biggest thing, as always, stay healthy. Stay healthy in week 1 and get into week 2 and get this season and get this era off to a good start. I think the Hoosiers win. I think they win pretty comfortably by the end of it. The current spread as of this recording is 21.5 for Indiana. I'm going to take FIU because of 21. I think we'll win by 21, maybe. But I'm going to take FIU with the points, but I'll take Indiana to win, and it will be a comfortable victory. Don't stress it. All right, that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers. That wraps up the week here once again on the show. We will be back on Monday, okay? We'll have a full breakdown, anything from the Jalen Haralson visit for basketball, breaking down week 1 of college football, and who knows what's going to happen between now and then. Thank you so much for being here. Like the video on YouTube. Comment your score predictions down below for Indiana football or any upsets you may see happening in the Big Ten in week 1. And then be sure that you click on our show logo and subscribe to the channel. It helps us out a ton. This show is free to you, so your support means the world for that. Let's get to 2,900. All right, I think we can do it here on Locked On Hoosiers on the YouTube side of things. My audio listeners, thank you to you as well. Be sure you turn on notifications so you never miss a new episode of Locked On Hoosiers. We'll be back on Monday. Not tomorrow. Tomorrow's Saturday. We'll be back on Monday, Hoosier fans, with all sorts of recap and reactions from the weekend. So have a good weekend. Until then, stay safe, and I'll talk to you later.